What do you buy with a life of loyalty? For some, their loyalty brings them status, promotion, and security. For others, it brings only more responsibility as they are burdened with more and more tasks that they and they alone can be trusted to complete. For one man, his life of loyalty brought him a throne, a blade, a family, an army, a purpose, and endless war with the sting of failure haunting his every step. The icy wastes of Fenris received their future king upon the back of a falling star. The young child, unbothered by the freezing snow and the roaring wind, strode out to meet his first challenge, the weather. Unperturbed by a bit of frost, the boy was adopted by a great Fenrisian she-wolf, a fearsome predator all on her own. Legends say that she took the boy in as one of her own, and her cubs became as family to the future king. The boy, with no language to speak save that of the wolves, and no name that a human could understand, became the leader of the wolf pack his adoptive mother and brothers were a part of. Together they lived, hunting and feasting as was natural to their kind and his. This time would not last forever, for as all wolves do, they bit off more than they could chew. A raid against a human village left the inhabitants thirsting for revenge. Perhaps the mighty wolves should have destroyed them all. It might have spared them the humans' wrath. Alas, we will never know. The men struck out with razor-sharp knives and arrows steeped in poison. Much of the pack was put down that night, and the future king, now a man, was captured and brought before the current ruler, a man named Thengir. Though the bound man was little more than a frothing animal, Thengir saw a spark of greatness in him, and eventually took him under his wing. Under the king's tutelage, the man grew his mind to match his body, becoming civilized but never domesticated. His hands came to hold an axe and sword, and his mouth learned that words could be weapons as well. The man earned a name for his improvements, no longer an animal. He was known by the name the king gave him, Leman of the Russ. Words of his great deeds spread far and wide, both across Fenris and the kingdoms of humanity alike. Word had even reached the fledgling Imperium of Man, and her emperor clad in gold. The emperor decided to see this legendary man in the flesh. He arrived, cloaked in a disguise, and stood before this Leman Russ, who had taken the throne of Fenris and now sat as the world's king. But what is a king to an emperor? The Wolf King did not recognize the Emperor's so-called authority, and challenged him to a series of tests. Should this Emperor of Mankind prevail, he would earn the fealty of Leman of the Russ. In the challenges of eating and drinking, Leman beat his guests soundly, but when it came to strength of arms, the Emperor stood tall, felling the Wolf King with a mighty blow. When he had recovered enough to stand, Russ pledged his loyalty to the Emperor. He learned that not only was he to be one of the Emperor's greatest servants, but that he was kin to the great man. He was his son. This was not all though. Russ learned that he came from quite a sizable family, and that one of his brothers was with their father, as seen in Wolfsbane.
So, you're the first, eh? Our father, he told me about you and all the rest of my kin. He said we will be friendly. What again was your name?
He smiled. He obviously knew the answer. Such an obvious probe annoyed Horus.
I am Horus, Primarch of the 16th Legion, the Lunar Wolves. Who are you?
You are Wolf. We are both Wolf. I am named Leman, King of the Rus. But I am more than this, think I. I have always known I am not of Fenris.
Known.
Yeah, sorry. I learned your language only 5 days ago.
Horus raised an eyebrow at that. It was an impressive feat.
You know of the Crusade?
I do know of this war. The Emperor, he has told me what I am and what I made for.
Do you agree with his aims?
An empire in the stars. Who would not agree with that? If I did not, I would come along for adventure. No one of the Rus make murder in the Upland. But I have no choice. It is written in my ear.
Horus's face expressed an unspoken question.
My fate.
We do not believe in fate.
This is the imperial truth. This the Emperor also says to me on our trip here. An interesting idea.
You do not believe it?
When gods come from the sky and tell you there are no gods, it takes little time to see what is true and what is not.
And what do you think is true?
I think a believer who ceases to believe when the truth of his world confirms those beliefs is a fool. It doesn't matter what gods say. We don't pay much attention to them. They are as drunk and stupid as we.
The warrior knew exactly what Horus thought of him. Do not underestimate him. The Emperor's words came back to Lupercal.
That will change. You will see that the Imperial truth is correct. The Emperor is a man. A great man, but he is a man. He is not a god.
My people already call him our father. They believe him the king of our gods. My warriors out there believe they are in the Oververse in Woodland.
Where?
The afterlife.
There is no afterlife. This place is as real as your world. I am glad to meet you, Leman, King of the Russ. We shall grow to be great comrades, I am sure.
Horus held out his hand. Russ grinned more widely. The meeting amused him. That annoyed Horus. He wanted this backwards chieftain to show him more respect. Russ grasped his hand hard. There was an amazing strength in that grip.
We shall be brothers.
I am sure you have much to discuss with our father. I shall see you soon.
Horus dipped his head and was about to walk through the door when the Savage King called out.
Hey, Horus of the Lunar Wolves. On my world, it is common for brothers to fight. Do you think, my brother, that we might fight?
I will spar with you, if that is what you wish.
No! Fight! Who would win, eh?
We are brothers. We will not fight.
Go on, think about it. If we fought, who would win?
Horus smiled coldly at his foundling brother.
I would.
Perhaps you would. Perhaps one day. We shall see.
The Wolf King could never have known how right his brother was. Russ left Fenris and took charge of the 6th Legion of Astartes, the Space Wolves. He waged his father's war across the stars, bringing worlds into compliance, much like his brothers. During this time, he grew close to Malcador the Sigillite, the Emperor's most trusted advisor, and received special counsel from the ancient Saga. Though Russ did not often see his father, he still had his trusted uncle Malcador for support. Of all his brothers, Leman could not be called a calm and reasonable person. While he was no longer a frothing animal like his brother Angron, nor a psychopath like his brother Conrad Kurz, Russ was known to take insults personally, and to exact vengeance with particular relish. During the war for the planet Julan, the planet's leader mocked the Wolf King's honor in such a way that the Primarch swore to kill the tyrannical blackguard with his own 2 hands. He made planetfall and strode into the ruler's throne room, just in time to see the sword of his brother Lion L. Johnson fall, beheading his mark, his kill. This new insult would not stand, and Leman of the Russ, barbarian king of Fenris, brandished his huge chainsword at his brother, the Night King of Caliban, as seen in The Great Wolf.
You do not have to play to this reputation, brother. You can drop the pretense anytime you choose.
My warriors fight on below. If you had aided them, I would have called you friend for it.
Then go to them yourself. Do not blame me for doing what you would not.
Russ swept back into contact, this time driving his chainsword across at his brother. The lion met the strike two-handed, driving the blow back with his longsword in a blaze of sparks. For a moment they tried their strength, pressing the 2 blades hard as metal screamed against metal. Leman's warriors roared encouragement, slamming their blades, generating a wall of noise in support of their liege. The Dark Angels soon were calling out in turn, vying with the wolves to shout the louder, cheering for their liege as if on a tourney field of old Caliban.
You have ever held yourself above the rest of us? Where does it come from? Would you damage this a child?
I never saw the point of you, that is true. No one can explain it to me either.
Then he broke away, falling back. Russ went after him, and they traded heavy swings.
No! Our purpose is evident. You see it before you now, and you long to be its equal.
All I see is delusion, brother. So much energy, so poorly directed.
Russ was the stronger of the 2 by a fraction, powering Krakenmaw with a greater heft and momentum. But the lion had superior dexterity, angling his parries to catch Russ off balance. Finally, they broke apart, both breathing heavily.
Too much of you yet, my noble lord. You can count the worlds you conquer, but you never fought like this.
No, it was never a game to me.
Nor I.
You treat all as a game. That is why they sent for me. Malcador cannot trust you. No one can trust you. Your legion is a rabble that would brawl among themselves if you were not there to smack their heads together.
If only they were more like yours.
Yes. Is that so hard to imagine?
I know why you do this. I know why you conquer world after world, driving your sons after every campaign Melkador finds for you. But our father won't do it, brother. He won't choose a favorite. And if he did, it wouldn't be you, it would be Sanguinius or Rogel or Horus. So you're wasting yourself, trying to be noticed. It doesn't work like that.
Not all of us are so without friends in the palace, Leman, and you have no idea who our father favors.
Maybe so, but he's not here now, is he? Just you, me, and the Kraken's teeth.
An ugly blade, much like its master.
Russ piled in again, sweeping the chain blade low and aiming for his adversary's legs. But the lion's sword slammed down to block, propelled two-handed and held fast. Russ heaved upwards, aiming to overbalance the lion, and they both staggered further down the hall, pursued by their cheering entourages. They fought. They fought with a conviction of brothers wronged, and of demigods roused to anger.
There is no place for you, Leman. You will always be shunned, and you made this fate yourself. When this crusade is over, you will have nothing but your home world, nothing but your empty mountain to brawl in.
I asked for nothing. Nothing. But what I am, we were all made for a reason, and we at least know what ours is.
Legions can be sanctioned, their lords held to account. Perhaps yours will be one of those.
Speak not of things you don't understand, boy.
The fighting went on for hours. Days turned to night, clouds turned to rain, a noble clash of swords devolving into a titanic brotherly wrestle. Russ heard the laughter begin as if from far away, taking a while to realize it was he himself that was making it. His chest started to shake, and the mirth rose up in his gorge, burgeoning fast as the absurdity of the situation became truly apparent. They had commenced the duel as warrior kings, superb and terrible, and had ended it as gutter brawlers, their finery smashed and their fury exhausted.
Why do you laugh?
Hell's teeth, brother. What are we doing here?
The lion swayed, standing over him, drowned in the heavy rain. Lightning crackled down around the fortress.
You yield?
Do I what?
Do you yield?
By then it was impossible to stop. The mirth became a torrent of laughter. He tried to speak, to blurt out something that would end this whole ludicrous episode, but nothing came. The lion thought that this was still some kind of honor duel. They had pummeled one another to the edge of unconsciousness, demolished half of the tyrant's palace in their fury, and still the Lord of Angels was demanding satisfaction. It was madness. Russ roared his hysterics out, throwing his head back against the streaming walls. He had forgot it all. The hunt, the crusade, the sickness in his legion's soul, the politics and the fraternity of Primarchs, the destiny of the species, and rocked in uncontrollable puerile glee. He never saw the final blow that finally ended it all. He never tensed for it. He never put up a warding arm. He never even watched for the lion limping across to him, pulling his bloodied fist back, and launching the punch that would crack open his skull and knock him cold as the tombs of Caliban. This bloody feud between the brothers, and by extension their legions, eventually forged a tradition that lasts to this very day. Should the Dark Angels and Space Wolves ever meet, they will hold a contest of strength, with each chapter sending forth a champion to engage in a duel. Most of the time, both champions return with their lives. Most of the time. Leman was also sent to bring his brothers to heel on more than one occasion. Most notable of these were the events later known as the Night of the Wolf. Russ was ordered to bring his brother Angron to Terra to answer for his disobedience of their father regarding the Butcher's Nails implantation into his legionaries. Angron was never known as a negotiator, and Russ was always open to a quick, violent solution to a problem. The two brothers came to blows, but the Red Angel's might was nothing short of immense. Russ was bloodied, and his legion mauled by the unquenchable rage of the World Eaters. He only survived by ordering a full withdrawal. Failing in the task that he had been given, this night would be a stain on his honor that would last forever. When Horus betrayed his father and the galaxy began to burn, he did not declare open rebellion all at once. No. The board would need to be set in such a way that would benefit the traitors the most. Perhaps he could get one last trick out of his father's lapdog, manipulating the Wolf King into prosecuting a bloody cleansing of the world Prospero, the home of the Thousand Suns and their Primarch, Magnus the Red. Thousands upon thousands died in the planet's ruination, and Russ, alongside his legion and elements of the Legio Custodes and the Sisters of Silence, marched on the great city of Tizca, devastating all in their way. Russ did not relent when his brother Magnus strode out to meet him, and the two fought. Though his brother burned him with warp fire, and both brothers' weapons were lost, Leman fought tooth and nail and eventually sundered his brother's back upon his knee. With the breaking of Magnus, the burning of Prospero was complete, and Horus had removed the variable of Magnus the Red from the delicate calculus of galactic civil war. Though he could not have known it at the time, by playing into Horus's machinations, Russ had failed his father. Eventually repelled from the ruins of Prospero by the Alpha Legion, whom he presumed to be loyal at the time, Leman was forced to reconsider his blind loyalty to his father. Upon his return to Terra, he resolved to walk his own path, and with the help of his beloved uncle Malcador, he formulated a plan that would put an end to this mess once and for all. Malcador had formed a small detachment of space marines from many legions, both loyal and traitorous alike, called the Knights Errant, and they would be the tip of the spear that the Wolf King planned to drive through his brother's black heart. With their help and the aid of his rune priests, Russ was able to divine the location of Horus's accursed flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. He confronted his brother whilst wielding an ancient relic, the Dionysian Spear. It was forged in the Age of Strife, supposedly by the Emperor's own hands, and was said to contain a portion of his godlike power. It was said that anyone stabbed by this spear would have the truth of themselves revealed to them. As the two brothers met, Russ tried reason, and if that didn't work, there was always a more violent option, as seen in Wolfsbane.
Leman of the Russ, my barbarian brother.
Horus, what have you done to yourself?
Stop this, now. Russ, listen to me. I have learned the truth. I have seen the future. I know what disaster our father will inflict upon our species.
You have been lied to. My brother, look around you and your ship. These are not the trappings of civilization you surround yourself with. It is madness. These items are worthy of curse, not you.
I am loyal to humanity. Do you not see? The Emperor cares for nothing but himself. He blinded you the moment he came to your world. Do not blame yourself, Leman. You cannot help it. I do not blame you. Join with me, and I will forgive you.
Forgive me. Look with honest eyes upon what you have wrought.
No, you are a dog. You come when our father whistles. The brave hound that will attack whatever his oppressor commands. Too stupid to know his master's quarry will kill you.
Stop this madness. Come back with me. Let the Emperor heal you.
I am not wounded. I have been made whole. Before, I was but a pawn. Now, I am master of my destiny. The Emperor told me, the day we first met, that together we could perform marvelous things. He is a liar, but he was right about that. With you at my side, we can reshape the galaxy. We were the first to stand together. Let us do so again, for the profit of all humanity.
A fake half-smile crept across the Wolf King's face.
A tempting offer, but save your breath. You commanded me to strike Magnus down when you dabble with far worse.
You did strike him down, so very eagerly. You always were easily led. A hot-headed fool, desperate to please as any hound. I expected nothing else but your loyalist yapping little wolf. But I was willing to give you a chance to embrace change. Very well. You will die by my hand. I take no pleasure in this.
It appeared that violence was the only language that Horus spoke, and well enough. Violence was Leman's first language too. The battle was desperate for both brothers. All Russ needed to do was to pierce his brother's armor with the spear, and he would be made aware of his folly. But Horus was no mewling lamb to be skewered. No, he was the War Master chosen by the Emperor, and then the War Master of Chaos, and he would not be wounded without sacrificing something in return. Leman Russ made a decision. It was time for him to be the sacrificial lamb, just once, allowing himself to be impaled on the talon of Horus. He drove his spear at his blasphemous brother's heart. However, in that crucial moment, he hesitated. It was only a fraction of a second, but to a Primarch empowered by the Dark Pantheon, it may as well have been a year. Horus turned the strike. The murder stroke that could have ended the heresy then and there was made no more than a wound, and wounds heal. Both brothers were grievously injured, and the only thing that saved Leman's life was a horde of his own sons dragging him to the safety of their armada, paying for his life with theirs by the dozen. The great wolf of Fenris fell into a coma, utterly drained from his mauling. Russ had failed once more. Rescued by Corvus Corax and brought to Deliverance, Leman Russ recovered from his wounds and began to consolidate what remained of his bloodied legion. Eventually, he was met by another of his brothers, one he had not seen in any proper capacity in many years, Lion L. Johnson. His brother had not been able to pierce the warp storm that cordoned off Terra from the rest of the galaxy, and therefore had taken it upon himself to wreak havoc upon the worlds of the traitors. Feeling the need for vengeance himself, or perhaps just wishing for a task in which he could succeed, Leman accompanied his brother on his crusade of vengeance. Like all storms do, the ruin storm finally abated, and the wolf and the lion made planetfall upon the broken cradle of humanity. Utterly distraught at the loss of his father, and the scale of ruin that had been visited upon the Imperium, tired of fighting battles he could not win, and sick of failing, Leman Russ slept. In his fitful rest, he experienced a dream in which he took a walk with a familiar stranger, as seen in The Great Wolf. He dreamed he was back on Fenris a lifetime ago. He walked across fields of white, his boots sinking into the snow, his breath hanging in the clouds across his face. The Wanderer walked beside him, cloaked in coarse grey, his face hidden. That face was always hidden. He didn't know how long they had been walking together. Perhaps moments, perhaps a lifetime.
Now is the time, Leman of the Russ.
What time?
The Wanderer turned, looking out into the highlands of Asarheim, where the peaks marched under a crystal sky, eternal and inviolate.
For you to do what you were made for, or to let your grief end you. Your choice.
I was made to protect you. I failed.
No. You were always wrong about that. You were made to protect what I created.
The Wanderer started to walk again, climbing higher. Russ watched him go. There were places he couldn't follow. The air chilled him to the bone. And so he turned, trudging back the way they had come. Work lay ahead there, the great work of his life. The wolf stirred, filled with a renewed purpose. He had not failed in his greatest duty. All his life, he had been seeking the right thing, but had been pursuing it in the wrong manner, now that his father had left him with his last, greatest gift. The King of Fenris would not lay idle. He rose and resolved to protect what his father had made. His brother, Lion L. Johnson, would have to wait 10,000 years before he would find such an invigorated new purpose. Thus, he had become a shell of his former self. The knight had lost his lord, and now knew not where to go. The lion was a grieving mess of pent-up violence and hurt, and Russ had just stepped into his way, as seen in The Great Wolf. The lion had his sword drawn, and its grey steel glinted in the cold.
I thought I knew wrath on Dallin, but I knew not then what wrath was.
Russ pushed past him, not wanting to do this. History would not remember why they had been delayed, only that they had been, and that would be enough.
Come back, Leman.
What for, brother? What more is there to say?
The lion pursued him, catching up at the end of the gallery where more statues of old triumphs languished in the dust. He reached out and grabbed Russ by the shoulder, spinning him around.
It was never finished, that duel. We left it undone, year after year.
You left,
said Russ. He had no stomach for sparring.
When I woke up, you were gone.
If I had stayed, truly, I would have killed you. But now I feel no such restraint. for all is ended, and all is madness. And nothing remains but vengeance for old scores.
Russ made no move to defend himself. He had torn his armor off a long time ago, and in his heavy robes he was defenseless. The tip of the lion's sword still hung over him, held aloft by the lion.
All is not ended. Not yet. Not unless we let it be so. But our fight is over. Leave it on Dulan.
You never learned! You should have been faster! It was your pride that kept you in the void!
Still, Russ made no move, though the lion's eyes were wild and dangerous.
And I am guilty, just as you are. So fight me, and we will pass sentence on each other. The guilty slaying the guilty. I will not ask again!
It was then Russ knew that his brother could never turn aside. The lion looked as if he was barely seeing the world around him, so Russ made no move. He left his chest exposed, held static under the blade's shadow, undefended, and shook his head. With a cry that was more pain than triumph, the lion shoved his blade deep, carving through flesh, the steel shrieking as it bent against a Primarch's bones. Russ roared out, his back arching, and felt the blackness rear up to cover him. He collapsed, the sword still buried in his chest, hitting the ashen floor with an echoing crack.
He knew he wouldn't kill me. He told me that afterwards. He turned the blade aside, right at the last moment. It still took a week to heal. That damned sword. It needed to be done, though. It cured the bad blood between us. We could speak again after that.
Haldor could see the images in his mind's eye, far more vivid than when the Skjalds told their old tales.
You are in mourning, Lord. Who has died?
If you'd been listening, you would know. What is the count of years now? I forget. We have built much since the day on Terra. We are a chapter now. For our old sins. I never wanted that, but I did it. For I have grown weary of fighting with my own brothers. There's been much to rebuild and remake. I curse that I know not when the lion truly died. The tidings reach me now, but I do not believe them. It was never at the council when Gilliman and Dawn argued over the shape of the Imperium. We were told he was fighting in the Scouring, and why should we not have trusted that? If he had been there, perhaps he would have resisted the change. For he was ever proud of his legion, as he had every right to be. He returned to Caliban after the siege, and that was the last anyone heard of him. All is secrecy now, and we are kept from the truth by this endless war, year after year. They say he died fighting the great enemy. Maybe that is so. I cannot believe it myself.
The Wolf King grinned.
I know how hard he was to bring down. He was an arrogant bastard, but he had a reason for it. A knight, indeed.
In 211 M31, Leman Russ held a banquet of massive proportions. It was here, in front of all his sons, he gave his last words. Passed down from brother to brother for 10,000 years, the Wolf King said, "Listen closely, brothers, for my life's breath is all but spent. There shall come a time far from now when our chapter itself is dying, even as I am now dying, and our foe shall gather to destroy us. Then, my children, I shall listen for your call in whatever realm of death holds me, and I shall come, no matter what the laws of life and death forbid. At the end, I will be there, for the final battle, for the Wolf Time." After saying this, he took his personal retinue and struck out for the Eye of Terror, leaving only one, the Wolf Bjorn, to remain on Fenris to take up the mantle of Chapter Master. The Primarch never looked back, for he had a new goal, one that he would never stop pursuing. His sons persist to this day, bringing the icy wrath of the Imperium down upon her foes. Many within the Volca Fenrica believe Russ yet lives, seeking what is known as the Tree of Life. According to legend, its seeds have the capability to heal the Emperor of his wounds. But beyond this, nothing is known, not even its location. What is known is that once the Wolf King of Fenris makes up his mind, nothing can keep him from his quarry. Leman Russ, a son, a servant, an executioner, a man who was thrust into a galaxy that marched to a beat very different than his own. Through each of his failures, he continued to strive towards what he thought was best, and never, ever settled for half measures. He was either respected or dismissed by his brothers, with some either writing him off as a tactless animal, and others valuing him as an unwavering ally. It is not known whether Leman of the Russ will return to his beloved Imperium, but the enemies of man should be wary. Should the Primarch of the Rout appear, the icy jaws of the wolf will close upon their throats. Brothers and sisters of the Imperium, the creation of these chronicles demands time, toil, and no small measure of coin. Each patron who joins our cause does more than support. They become part of the very war engine that drives these tales forward. From humble initiates to exalted demon princes, our Patreon offers many tiers, each created with unique rewards and honors. And at the end of every podcast, we pay tribute to our most valiant supporters, those whose names are etched in digital glory. Join us, and together we shall keep the lore alive.